All right, so Howie Mandel, obviously he's not the easiest guest to deal with on a podcast, but he just seems to be getting more annoying with each appearance he makes, even though it's going to be really hard for him to top his most recent one on Not Today, Pal. This was rough. It was really hard to listen to, and people in the comments were feeling bad for the podcast host. Even though I'd say they handled it pretty well. You know, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into when you have Howie on your podcast. Like when he was on Kill Tony a couple months ago, Tony basically had to just let him do whatever the hell he wanted to. I mean, Howie pretty much took over the show, like he was the main host. And like this comment points out, if for anybody else, Tony would have said something and been annoyed by it, which maybe he was annoyed by it. I know most people in the comments were. Like a lot of the comments are just roasting Howie. You know, like this comment says, Howie's the kind of guy I'd cross the street to avoid having to talk to. And I'm sure a lot of people felt like this after listening to Not Today, Pal. And if you're not familiar with that podcast, it's part of YMH, you know, Tom Segura's network. And it's hosted by Rob Eiler and Jamie Lynn Siegler, you know, the kids from The Sopranos. And I think they started the podcast around 6 months ago. And for the most part, they don't have guests on, like it's just them. But more recently, they started to have some guests. So they had on Howie a couple days ago, and Rob, he's also a germaphobe and has OCD. So I think he's excited to talk to Howie about it and ask him questions and stuff. But Howie was just not into it, and him and Rob did not get along very well. I mean, it seemed like everything Rob would say, Howie would just be like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you saying? And at one point, Howie was even acting like Rob is too extreme with his germophobia. So maybe like this comment says, apparently you shouldn't put two OCD germaphobes in the same room together because this one was tough to listen to. But I think it's mostly because of Howie. It felt like he was trying to make Rob as uncomfortable as possible. Like anything Rob would say, Howie would ask him 10 questions about it. And then Howie would make some weird jokes that would never land. And then he'd have to explain everything. Like he always has to explain every joke he makes and everything he says, which maybe is part of his OCD or something. But after this podcast, I would imagine Rob was pretty disappointed. Like right from the beginning, things are kind of awkward, but it gets so much worse.
Some people would introduce our guest as Hollywood royalty, but to me, he is the Christopher Columbus of my people, which are the germaphobes, the OCD.
Thank you.
These people. I just want to thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Oh, well, that's really sweet of you.
For us.
Lead with mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
I'm the Christopher Columbus of mental health.
Yeah, I feel like you were the first one.
I discovered neurosis, and
you put
OCD.
it on the map.
I feel like you went out there.
So the Nina, the Pinta, and the sanitizer.
Yes.
Oh,
Very good.
There
What I did there?
I
Yeah.
love it.
I made history and a pun.
Wow.
All in one.
Yeah, and this whole podcast kind of reminded me a little bit of the awkward Bill Burr appearances, you know, on H Street's podcast and Theo Vaughn's. You know, like Theo and Ethan were big fans of his and had high expectations for the podcast, but they did not go very well, just like with Rob and Howie here. And also Howie has the same kind of mentality as Bill on podcasts. You know, he doesn't care how well it's going, you know, if it's going smoothly. He doesn't care if the host is struggling. You know, he's not going to do the host any favors. Like if they say something stupid or they screw up, he's going to point it out. And he does not seem to care if he makes things awkward at all. And I think he's trying to make the host uncomfortable, especially with Rob. Like the whole time, Howie just kept taking passive aggressive shots at him and making jokes about him. But I'm sure Rob is like, is he being serious? Like, does this guy actually hate me or something?
And then when I'm doing that, then it distracts me from my own inner mind. Unless you show up someplace and they want to talk about it. No, I'm okay.
Oh,
with
really?
that.
You don't want to talk about
No,
it?
I'm okay talking about it. I just think the worst thing for me, the scariest time for me is quiet.
Yeah, so this was a tough one for Rob. You know, he's probably excited to talk to Howie. He probably thought they'd bond over being germaphobes and having OCD, but it was like the exact opposite of that. And a little further into the podcast, he tries to get some advice from Howie, and of course, it does not go well. Like Rob brings up how he gets really grossed out by phones because they're really dirty and have a ton of germs and everything. And he asks Howie what he should do if he has a girlfriend who keeps bringing it into bed. And Howie, he makes some stupid joke at first, and he doesn't even know what Rob's talking about. Like, he's never thought of how many germs a phone would have.
So disgusting. And I want my bed to be very clean, wonderful place. Give me some advice. I also want to know from 1 to 10.
Ass pods.
Ass pods?
Yeah, instead of AirPods. Ass pods. That way she always calls.
She probably put her fucking phone in my ass pod.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
she's-
getting a call. Woo-hoo. I wasn't even thinking of the germs.
Oh, it's
I mean,
100
how exciting are you if you bring a woman to bed and she brings her phone?
I'm talking about.
How about a little scroll and roll?
There are women who lay in bed at night on their phone, and then
Not
they take
on
the
a
phone.
date.
I'm not talking about a date. I'm saying I'm dating someone for months.
I don't think about the germs on the phone. The germs on the phone would be the same as the germs on her body. Like, where did she put her phone that she wasn't?
No, people. They do swabs on phones, and they're like phones.
Don't
are
bother
the
me with
most-
this. Don't tell me what's the phone is bad.
You just asked me. I think
A lot of
phones,
germs on the
phones
phone.
are disgusting.
Well, because they're
But if you say you're a germaphobe, can't you say, can't I swab or wipe your phone?
Yes, but then it becomes the living the life where I don't want to be watching her every hour and every minute of every day.
No, just
when
before
she's
bed.
walking.
It's a thing.
But it's not a before bed. Like people like to go and just walk into the bed and put the phone. Like people like to be in the bed even when it's not
Do you
bedtime.
sleep in a fucking
sometimes.
phone case? Why do they always
Listen,
go in there before and
he's
put
a
their
boy
phone?
in a bubble.
I live in a one bedroom, dude. I don't live in a mansion. Half the fucking apartment is the bed.
Wow.
Yeah,
You're really charming the ladies. I can hear the
Hey.
ladies listening right now.
bro.
going,
That's why I'm single, man, and a ton of reasons.
Yeah, so it's funny hearing Howie Mandel talk to another germaphobe and just be like, all right, man, take it easy here. You know, Rob probably figured that this would be something Howie could relate to at least a little bit, like just in terms of being grossed out by phones. But Howie, he didn't even understand that. And maybe he really just didn't want to talk about this stuff. You know, maybe he's being serious when he said that earlier. I don't know. But then right after this, Howie starts to focus on Jamie and ask her a bunch of questions because they bring up bowling alleys and how gross they are. And Jamie mentions that she'll take the shoes that they give you there, but she won't wear them. And when Howie hears this, he questions her about it, and then he starts making fun of her and acting like she's crazy.
I'm not going to
You're
rent.
prepared.
Like we're supposed to believe that the guy that sprays that
that
whatever.
is the biggest crock of shit.
I get the shoes and never put them on
Why?
because I don't want to wear them.
No, why? I get that part.
Because I'm following the rules.
I love that you thought I was confused by why you didn't put them on. I'm confused by why you get them if you're not going
For
to
the
put them
process, for they can
Oh, you
mark
like-
off that the girl in lane 13 got her shoes. I don't know if there's like a checking process.
on. Wow, you have a different neurosis. You're afraid of
I'm a
people
rule
thinking
follower. Yeah.
thinking the girl on lane 13 didn't get shoes.
Big time.
Rather than the girl on lane 13, the girl on lane 13 got shoes but doesn't put them on.
So it felt like these two couldn't say anything during the podcast without Howie making fun of them or questioning it and acting like whatever they said is crazy. And then right after this, Howie breaks down everything that just happened. And the way he describes the beginning of the podcast, like Rob talking about his problems, is hilarious.
But as we sat down, you kind of captured the beginning of this as like, I'm fucked up, and Howie helped me, like I not help me, but I have mental health. I love that. I have problems. I'm single. I can't find somebody who won't put their filthy, shitty phone in my bed. And then slowly but surely, the wave of neurosis comes to this side where you take shoes for no reason at all. You're very concerned about what others think more than what is right to do. This is like a wave of, this is like a group session where we're going around. It's a meeting. It's like an intervention.
And you could tell how he loves listening to himself talk. And he kind of reminds me of Bert Kreischer when it comes to that. It is pretty bad. And he also interrupts a lot. He acts like people are just waiting for him to start talking. Like Jamie was in the middle of a story and Howie's just like, oh, that reminds me of something. And then he starts telling a story about himself.
Don't let anybody know you have a problem. Always be perfect. That was just, and
So
because
weird.
she was,
we have so many similarities. I'll never forget the day my dad had this. He was a member of this club, like a golf club and stuff. And he took me on a Sunday, and he took me to the sauna. His friends used to on Sundays take a sauna, and he took me to the sauna. He sat me in the sauna, and I'll never forget. He looked at me and he said, "Never let them see you sweat."
wow, what a challenge.
You reminded me of that.
And it honestly seemed like he was just trying to make this podcast as awkward as possible. Like, what do you even say after that? But at least Rob and Jamie handled the whole thing pretty well. They probably knew Howie was a difficult guest, but I don't know if they expected it to go like this. Like towards the end, I'd imagine Rob was probably just thinking, what is his problem with me? Like, why is he being so passive aggressive towards me? And I know Howie's just kind of like that, but this seemed worse than usual. You know, it was like anything Rob would say, Howie's like, can you believe this guy? What is he, crazy? Like towards the end, they start talking about acting. And I think Rob mentioned that he likes doing movies over TV, but then he says he doesn't like doing either. And of course, Howie acts so confused by this, like he has no idea what Rob is trying to say. And, you know, if this weren't on a podcast, like if this were them just hanging out and Howie's acting like this, I think they both would have just been like, all right, dude, what is going on here? Why are you being so weird?
Pursuing acting at all?
I am.
I hate it.
Yeah, he hates it.
Really?
I hate it. Yeah, I hate the like weird because you know what it is like.
You just told me how much you loved it when I said I want to do movies, and you said I like it because you can read the scripts. And
No,
you know
I'm saying I hate television compared to film. I'd rather do film because you know what you have to
So
do
are you
getting
not?
into
Are you
it.
going after film?
I hate all of it. No,
Oh.
I don't.
I don't understand what you're saying.
I don't. If I
Welcome to
had to
your life.
choose, I was just saying it's interesting that I don't like television, but I like the fact that in movies you get to, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
That's a great closing.
Or one last thing, we do have questions in this cup if you want to grab one.
Okay.
And then
You know how many times you said one last thing?
I don't know. I think once. I think I was trying to. I was
pod.
trying
No,
to
I don't mean today. I'm just saying in general. Do you know how many times you said?
Oh, a lot for sure.
Okay, so
What do you
here
know?
it
What's the
is.
question?
Yeah, so it seems like Howie just really likes to give Rob shit and goof on him. I mean, basically the whole podcast was like this. You know, it was only 36 minutes, but there are plenty of other awkward moments that I didn't even get to. And pretty much every comment on the episode agrees this was painful. And I think it was the most disliked episode so far. Even though I guarantee Howie didn't think anything of it. You know, he probably thought it went well. But Rob and Jamie, I would imagine they're probably like, what the hell was that? You know, thank God it's over. But let me know what you guys think about it all down in the comments. And then make sure you go check out my Patreon account. There's a ton of extra content up there. I think over 70 videos at this point. If you want to hear about the degeneracy of Ari Shaffir, or the downfall of Miley Yiannopoulos, or how Tim Dillon broke Eric Weinstein. And there's plenty of other stuff to go through. Most of the videos are over 20 minutes. So if you like the channel, make sure you check it out. I'll put a link in the description. Then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.